Now, have I got Glenn here?
Yes, Judge.
Splendid. And Mark?
Yes, Judge.
Now, Glenn, Mark. Glenn, you're suing I'm going to call him your ex-friend, for money that you say he owes you for a car that you sold him. And you say that there was a very simple agreement. He was to give you the money for the car within 6 months, and he hasn't paid you back. It's as simple as that, correct?
Yes, Judge.
And you say, time is up, you want your money. Very simple. Now, Mark, you say in reply, you may owe some of this money, but you certainly don't owe it yet. The agreement was for a good deal longer than Glenn has given you time for, yes?
That's what my understanding was, Judge, yeah.
And in addition to that, Mark, you say that even if I were to construe that there was a legally enforceable agreement here, the reality of the situation is that you've got into difficult times, which Glenn ought to have known or foresaw at the time he gave you this money, correct?
Yes, Judge.
Yes. Now, Glenn, how long did you know Mark for?
I think roughly about 12 to 18 months.
And in what circumstances did you meet Mark?
We met through a friend, introduced us.
What was your job, please, Glenn?
I look after my own property portfolio.
Right, so you're a landlord?
Yes.
And what exactly did you do at the time, Mark?
I was unemployed, really.
Well, that's not a job.
No. I was unemployed.
Well, what were you doing whilst you were unemployed? Were you seeking work? Were you
I was actually
doing hair and makeup? I have to understand this.
No, I lost my best friend to cancer.
I'm sorry to hear that.
That's fine, no problem.
I think that's... And, in fact, that is germane to the case. We're going to hear about that in due course.
Yeah.
But before that, what were you doing? What work?
Prior to that, I'd been laid off from a job in the hydroponics and plant lighting industry.
Mark was unemployed. At the time that you asked Glenn about this car, were you in work or were you unemployed?
When I first met Glenn, I was unemployed. By the time we discussed the car, which was a month or two later, I was actually helping my friend out in his shop, just doing part-time work, really.
Right, that's not Glenn, but you were part-time, you were working part-time?
Yes, yeah.
Did you have any savings of any kind?
I did have some savings, but I was using them to move myself to Wales to work on the movie script. Which
right, don't worry, we're going to get to the movie script. Glenn, you had a classic Range Rover to sell, yes?
Yes, Judge.
How much was the Range Rover worth?
Worth, or what I sold it for?
Worth, not what you sold it for, because you sold it,
5,000.
according to your claim, you sold it for an undervalue.
Yeah.
Right, the value of the car was?
About £5,000.
You agreed, as I understand it, to sell the car to Mark for how much?
£3,000.
Now, just pause. You're a businessman. Why would you agree to sell a car which is worth £5,000 to somebody that you only met 18 months ago?
Because he was beat down on his luck. In my impression that he was actually working full-time. I didn't know he was working part-time. And he was having a few problems, and I thought I'd be doing him a bit of a favour by giving him...
Well, a bit of a favour is, can I make you dinner? A bit of a favour is, you're down on your luck, can I suggest a good therapist? That sort of thing. Yes? £2,000 is rather generous. It's sort of more than a favour. It's a massive donation, right?
Yes, Judge.
Did you know that this car was actually worth £5,000?
Glenn did tell me it could be worth up to £5,000,
Well,
yes.
could be worth anything. If I had more hair and more talent, I could be Brad Pitt. All right, Michelle. Do you understand?
Yes, sure.
Did you know whether it was worth £5,000?
To be perfectly honest, no, I didn't check out the value of the car.
I understand. That's the car, yes?
Yes, sure, yeah.
Now, why did you especially want a Range Rover, which is a high-value car, even if it has done some mileage?
It came really from a conversation we'd had when I was retelling the story how where I live is very remote and in the mountains, and last Boxing Day I got stuck up on the mountain in the snow in what was a little Ford Focus I had at the time. The mountain was too steep and too slippy to get up in the snow, so we had to come round, but then the car locked up and slid as we came down, and it was only 5 seconds, but it's a horrific moment, and I was pretty scared. And Glenn just joked.
So it was less of a car and more of a toboggan?
Yes. And Glenn just said, oh, living in the mountains, you could do with a 4x4.
Very sensible. For more Judge Rinder cases, click here. And if you've got a legal issue yourself, get in touch with us by clicking over here.